Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ever the Wiser, your home for behavioral insight on how to address the climate crisis. I'm Meg Martineau, the founder of Ever the Wiser. I have my doctorate in behavior analysis, and we deeply believe that behavioral science has a lot to offer in terms of solutions to climate change. Today, we're discussing climate anxiety, something many of us struggle with, and providing you with some behavioral tips to help alleviate it. So, the American Psychological Association has been doing a survey every year since 2007 on stress in America, and it basically measures the levels of stress that we experience every year. The survey that was completed in 2021 showed that 78% of Americans say the pandemic was a significant source of stress, 63% of Americans say the economy is a significant source of stress, and 75% of Gen Z adults ages 18 to 23 experience common signs of depression, noting that they felt so tired within the last 2 weeks it impacts their daily lives. In terms of climate anxiety specifically, the APA did a survey in February of 2020 and found that two-thirds of American adults said they felt at least a little anxiety about the future of our planet. This isn't surprising. Just know if you feel this way, you're not alone. You're not crazy. There's a large group of us dealing with the same things. We're all living this together. There's a clock ticking in which humans need to stop putting so many greenhouse gases in the air. And as a single individual, it can feel like too much. So let's get into it. Here are some behavioral tips to alleviate your anxiety. Number one, identifying and living in your values. This is a critical component of acceptance and commitment therapy, also called ACT. It's a behavioral approach to mental health. When I say values, it's what are the certain tenets that are ingrained in who you are? What lights you up? Your values are what you treasure most. What values, when you're living in them, make you feel connected to aspects of life that we treasure? What gets you most excited about the world and resonates with you the most? The best part is that your values are completely individualized to you. So, how can one figure out their values? The best list I found is by Brene Brown in her book Dare to Lead. Here is that list for your reference. She recommends going through this list and marking the ones that pop out at you. Whittle it down to two that really resonate with you. Here is that list zoomed in so you can see it more easily. Take time to walk through it and reflect. What ones pop out at you? Is it gratitude, growth, making a difference, tradition? The best part is that you can pick what is personally relevant for you. Different strokes for different folks. What rings your bells? What gets you going about life? What do you care about? Mine is making a difference, but for you, it could be faith, legacy, or giving back. Once you figure out your values, commit to them. Create systems to make it easier for you to live in your values. This is where we can really use behavioral science to our advantage. Check yourself throughout the day about whether you are in your values or not. Tell others you care about that this is how you're going to approach the world through the lens of what's most important to you. Then it's really as simple as checking yourself periodically throughout the day and asking the question, am I in my values right now? When you're feeling down or not great, am I in my values? When you're feeling good, am I living in my values? On your way to work, am I in my values? On the couch watching a movie, am I in my values right now? At the end of the day, even write in your journal all the times you were and examples of when you were living in your values for that day. What specific behaviors did you do that were in line with your values? Give yourself credit and celebrate your success when you do. This is where your power is. There's so much power into committing to living in your values. Another great trick that I use is using everyday stimuli we encounter to serve as a prompt to determine whether or not we're in our values. For example, every time you touch water, or every time you get in and out of a car, or every time you cross the threshold of a door, let that serve as a prompt to check, whoa, am I in my values right now? Behavioral tip number two, allow yourself to feel your emotions. This may sound easy, but I think it's actually one of the harder ones, especially if you're not used to it, if you're really good at pushing your emotions away. So when these negative experiences pop up, it's an opportunity to explore where any healing needs to occur. Stephen Hayes is the originator of ACT, and he refers to it as working through the wisdom of your pain. We all have certain pressure points that we need to work through, which can be really hard because they're so ingrained in our experience. If you're feeling an emotion or a sensation in your body, don't push it away for no one to see or for you not to feel it. When you do this, it's actually a great way to ensure the feeling lingers in the body day after day. Instead, when you feel an emotion that doesn't feel so great, get curious about it. What does it feel like? Is it heavy, light, a butterfly feeling, a tightness, a pinching of the shoulders? Where is it in your body? How long does it last? Is there anything I can do to create shift away from those physical sensations? Typically, physical movement like exercise or breath work can really do the trick here. Also, make sure to use the language, I feel anxious, instead of I am anxious. You're feeling your emotions. They aren't your identity. Emotions are giving the body clues on how to move forward. When we have the courage to look at our emotions and face them head on, a funny thing happens. They have an amazing tendency to dissipate faster. Emotions are a funny thing. They want to be seen. And if you don't believe me, I encourage you to give it a shot and let me know how it goes. Number 3, building new thought patterns. If you're a behavior analyst or a BCBA, you know that our secret sauce to behavior change is not just addressing challenging behavior to try and get it to go away, but the real power in behavioral science is to focus our attention on building up new behaviors. In this case, new thought patterns that better serve us. One way to do that is to build positive self talk into our everyday language. Just as our negative thoughts can be runaway trains that begin to cycle on their own, we can also do that with positive ones as well. So let's build positive thoughts and stories about ourselves that are accurate and will serve us better than speaking poorly about ourselves. This isn't being delusional, like I'm the best, most important person in the world. It's done by selecting a few sayings that resonate with your values. Pick these sayings, find ones that are reflective of the life you want to live, then find systems to feed yourself these thoughts throughout the day. Like anything, once you start out, it's harder, the response effort is greater, but after some time, and frankly not too much, our beautiful neurons in our brains take over. They start automatically popping these thoughts in because you've made it part of your behavioral history. Here are a few positive affirmations or self talk related to climate change specifically. It can be really anything you want it to be, but these are some of my personal favorites. I choose to be part of the solution. I make conscious choices. I'm a positive influence for others. I'm living in my values. I surround myself with positive influences. I'm proud of my choices. What I do every day matters. Pick one or two that resonate with you. You'll need to set yourself up to be successful and put a little effort in before your brain starts to make it a habit. One way to do this is to identify something you regularly encounter to serve as a prompt for positive self talk. So, since I'm a working mom, I find myself cleaning and doing the dishes more than I'd like to. I started to use the prompt of any time my body touches water as an opportunity to say something positive that resonates with my values. So, rather than like looking at the dishes and being like, oh, it's a huge pile of dishes, which I still do from time to time, I find myself saying, what I do every day matters. I'm making the world a better place through my actions. It's a much more positive place to be, and I find I move on to the next part of my day in a much better mood. I pick cleaning because I'm unfortunately stuck doing it a lot, but maybe for you, it's when you drink your morning cup of coffee or anytime you get in the car. A prompt can be anything you regularly encounter. It's helpful to rely on prompts to start because it takes a little bit of effort at first before your brain starts to automatically cycle these thoughts that better serve you. All right, number 4. Identify and be aware of triggers that occasion your climate anxiety. A trigger can be any stimulus outside of the body that initiates a thought pattern or negative emotion. So think, if you close your eyes for a second, think about all the things that could possibly happen outside of your body that could trigger you. It could be anything. It could be a person, place, thing, sound, smell, song, time of day. It really can be anything. We've all got them all, and if you're self-aware at all, you probably can come up with some right now. There's probably a couple triggers that you know off the top of your head. So, by knowing your triggers, when you dive into what they are for you on a personal level, you then can get some power over them. Knowledge is power, baby. So, number 1, can you put yourself in situations where you're less likely to be triggered? We can't avoid all the triggers. We're human, things are going to happen, but maybe, just maybe, we can lessen our exposures. Are you allowing yourself or putting yourself in situations where it's likely you're going to get triggered? Maybe don't do that to yourself if possible. Maybe you don't need to convince that coworker that climate change is real. Maybe you don't need to watch the news or follow certain people on social media who trigger you. Second, a second really powerful thing that happens is when you're triggered and you take a quick breath, you realize between a stimulus and a response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. When you are triggered, you can say, hey, that's a trigger. I see it. Am I going to let it control me? Am I going to let it shift me away from living in my values? Or do I choose to live in my values? We can't do this every time. We're human. But isn't it wonderful and so empowering in these instances where we actually can decide and say, hey, not today, not right now. I'm not going to let that trigger control me. Number 5, identify your glimmers. This is a new term floating around the social media realm. I'm 1,000% on board with it. Behavior analysts would call a glimmer a stimulus that elicits emotion of happiness. We then get all technical and start to try to define the topography of happiness and how do we measure it. But glimmers are people, events, things, a flower, a sunset, your child singing a song, your partner holding your hand, a warm bed at night. They're anything that does the opposite of triggering a negative emotion. They light you up. They let you see the joy, optimism, and hope in the world. So, what are your glimmers? Add more of them to your day to day. If you love your bed, go to bed early. If you love music, go to a concert. If nature lights you up, go for a walk. Give yourself permission to be happy. You deserve it. And when these happy moments and feelings arise, hold on to them, soak them in, let the feeling ride just a little bit longer. Give yourself the space in your body to feel happy. It's okay. You can be a concerned citizen about the future of the planet and still be happy in your day to day. The real trick to this, at least for me, is that you can go to bed at night and reflect on whether or not you are living in your values. And when you do, you can be really proud of yourself and allow yourself to be happy. Number 6, take stock of who you surround yourself with. When we think about triggers and glimmers, I encourage you to think about who you're spending time with. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Be honest. Who do you spend the most of your time with? Are you getting anything out of that relationship? Like, do they make you feel happy? You laugh together? You push each other to be better? Or are you like many of us who we have relationships simply out of habit? And when you sit back and start to really analyze and think about it, you feel like you're putting way more into that relationship than you're actually getting out of it. The people you surround yourself with reinforce your behavior and your thinking. If you do all this work and then surround yourself with people who are a negative influence on you, they're going to dim your light. Instead, spend time with people who are encouraging and supporting the best version of you. Those are the keepers in life. Number 7, something that I think a lot of us don't do, is realize your impact. The world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. There's so much research to support that humans are more likely to engage in behaviors when they're modeled by others around them. So much more than just by telling someone of their intent. There are a lot of great studies. One was done in California that looked at sustainable behaviors, and they found that when people observed others engaging in less use of water, that they were more likely to do the same. There was also a study by Oskamp in 1991 that showed when people are interviewed about their recycling habits, it predicts how their neighbors recycle because we're so influenced by those around us. If we find ways to live in our values, you can create so much change. One of the fundamental tenets of behavioral science and how we learn is imitation and observational learning. Humans learn most behaviors by watching others engage in them. So why not just be the model? Once you start living in your values, you can create these huge ripple effects around you. Number 8, celebrate and enjoy your success. Ride it out to the sunset. In behavioral terms, we call this the power of positive reinforcement. Behavior goes where the reinforcement flows. If a behavior is reinforced, it's likely to happen again. When you do something of value, celebrate it. Tell your tribe, soak it in, be proud of yourself, show yourself some love. Celebrating your success is a critical step in helping us rewire our brain with more positive thinking and make us more likely to live a life tied to our values. Spend some time focusing on all the things you've done well and accomplished. Take a moment and reflect on anything that you've done to make yourself proud. Write out a victory board. Make it a habit to journal your successes from the day. Get a list going. Write it out every night so it becomes a habit. If you do this enough, your brain starts to take over since you're helping facilitate more productive thought patterns than cycling about the planet. Thank you for checking out this video. I hope you found something that resonated with you and you can use in your day-to-day. We all deserve to be happy. You deserve to be happy. Take the first few steps, accept your feelings, face them, find a way to let them move through your body if they feel negative, and remind yourself of your values and commit to small actions every day. People are capable at any time in their lives of doing what they dream of. When we start talking about values and improving our mental health, we get into some really important questions. What do you want the rest of your life to look like? How do you want to spend your years? What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to say about you at your funeral? We all have the power to live a life we want, a life that we will be proud of. You deserve to be happy. We all do. So take one or two things that you learned today and think about how you can apply that to your life. Start small. Once you get that one in place, then you add on more. So maybe for you, it's identifying your values and finding an environmental prompt to check yourself throughout the day. Or maybe it's listing out your triggers and figuring out a way to lessen them. That's a good one. I personally really love finding my glimmers and trying to find strategies to hold on to that feeling for a little bit longer. Once you get one thing down, grab another strategy and add on to it. Good luck. You got this. If you like this content, please like and share. Our mission is to disseminate relevant behavioral principles to help solve the climate crisis. If you're a BCBA, go to everthewiser.com to get your CEUs about the climate crisis. We also give a portion of our profits to environmental organizations who are actively lowering greenhouse gas emissions. It's a win-win, baby. At Ever the Wiser, you can expand your mind and heal the planet at the same time.